Welcome everyone. We will be talking about the economic and the business environment in this presentation. So economic problems, what are there? Plentiful of economic problems, I believe, because there are no dearth of our requirements, no dearth of our demands. There is no sanctity which can put a limit to our aspirations. So we have unlimited wants, but then unlimited wants are not been compensated by unlimited resources. Everything, all the resources, be it land, labor, and capital, are always scarce and very difficult to avail it. So resource usage and choices, as the case might be, is the economic problem that we would love to go around it. To absolutely have a perfect harmony and marriage between unlimited want and the scarce resources thereby. So how do we optimally use them and what are the available choices that we speak about it? And that is what the economic problem is all about. So what goods and services should an economy produce? Should the emphasis be on an agriculture, manufacturing, or services? Should be on a sport or a leisure or on housing, as the case might be? How should goods and services be produced? Labor intensive or land intensive? Land intensive or capital intensive? Or it should be a perfect harmony between labor, land, and capital. Or what we are talking about is efficiency in short. And else, who else should get to produce those goods and services? Should it be produced as on when on basis or at a place where the production cost is minimal? So you need to answer such questions for distribution, for the rich people, for the people who have plentiful of work to be done and hard labor is cheap, where this is to be manipulated, manufactured, manifested, and so on and so forth. So what goods and services should an economy produce? How should the goods and services be produced? And who should get the goods and services produced all together? So this is what the economic problem was all about it. In resolving this particular question, these three questions, which is very important in the longish of the cost. Now we'll talk about the opportunity cost. Remember the cost expressed in terms of the next best alternative, which we often sacrifice, and that is what an opportunity cost is all about it. The cost expressed in terms of the next best alternative sacrifice, as the case might be, help us view the true cost of decision making, implies valuing different choices as on when on basis. This is what the implication is all about. So yes, opportunity cost happens. Now we will speak about production possibility frontiers. Please, again, I repeat this particular three connotation word. Production possibilities frontiers henceforth will be mentioned in the slide as PPF. Whenever PPF comes around in the slide, it is all about the possibilities, frontiers, and production orientation that we are talking about it. All frontiers possibilities as far as production is concerned. PPF shows the different combination of goods and services that can be produced with a given number of resources. Remember, this is what we are looking forward to it. There is no ideal point on the curve. I will not comment upon it as in which is the right path, which is the wrong path. It is for you to make this assumption as per your requirement. Any point inside the curve, which suggests the resources are not being utilized efficiently, and any point outside the curve is not attainable with the current level of resources, useful to demonstrate the economic growth and the opportunity cost that is being there in the market as is being shown on a day-to-day basis. So this is what production and possibility frontiers are all about it. Any point inside the curve, probably you are misappropriating or not utilizing the resources as desired or as requested, or any point outside the class possibly doesn't is not very in the realm of the things of realities. With the current level of production and the capacity that you have, it doesn't matter. We will talk about the PPF in the following slide and tell you about the curve that comes around it. Remember, PPF is all about economic growth and opportunity cost. Production possibility frontiers is what we are looking out here. Let me plot that graph for you. Let me plot that graph for you so that it gives you a better understanding as to what needs to be done. On the y-axis, if I plot the capital goods, now this goods has to be manufactured, by the way. Remember, so this is where we are producing the goods, and on an x-axis, allow me to produce plot consumer goods, which are being basically being consumed by us. It's an end customer that looks into it. Assume a country can produce two types of goods. One is capital goods, and the other one is a consumer goods. So capital goods absolutely for the industry, and the consumer goods absolutely for your end consumption by the customers as such. Now, this is a curve that I wanted to go around it. We have a curve. We can have consumer goods and we can stress upon a capital goods, or let us have a marriage between capital and consumer goods and try to balance it out. Believe me or not, if I end up producing a capital goods only, if I end up producing capital goods, I will be neglecting on the consumer goods, right? So there's an opportunity cost that needs to be taken care of. If I take only consumer goods, people are going to have a wonderful life, but probably I will lose a lot of margin, a lot of profitability altogether, a lot of foreign expenditures. If we are selling those goods, capital goes to the other country, a lot of forex would be left alone. So what do we do? It's a very classic situation of producing the capital goods vis-a-vis a consumer goods. As far as opportunity cost is concerned, it devotes all resources to capital goods. It could produce a maximum of, let's say, whatever the returns are to be told around now. If it devotes all its resources to consumer goods, it could maximum return would be in XM. So we have, in terms of capital goods, I have already explained a lot of forex, a lot of capital margin, a lot of profitability in terms of YM. But in terms of consumer goods, I will be producing a lot of satisfactory, happy customers at the end of the day, and maximum of XM as a profitability quotient goes around it. So what do I do? We have YM and XM. YM in the capital good factors and XM. This is my profit ratio that comes around it. Or should I go about here? In case if we are producing something in between capital goods and things, this is what we are producing, right? And that is the reason why I said I will not give or take a position out here. It is for you to decide which is the best method of PPF graph that you need to go around it. Where are you going to produce? What are the strategies that you're going to implicate, and so on and so forth. This is what we will be talking about it. Point A, as I've been selling it, if a country is at point A on the PPF, it can produce a combination of both A consumer goods and the capital goods, which I have already said it to you. But then what happens? How do you proceed it all together? Remember, this is what needs to be understand. That means you are sacrificing n numbers of capital goods, so you are limiting yourself to a capital goods altogether. Similarly, for which is for a particular numbers that comes around it. Yes, and similarly for consumer goods, you are not optimally, you are also limiting, you are not actually producing the whole strength and coming up producing a limited number of XO, because Y number of Y products will give you YM monies, and for XO numbers of production it will give you XM production. But let us have another proxy situation. What happens is I end up producing more number of consumer goods. I'm reallocating my position, right? So I'm utilizing the resources altogether, moving PPF from point A to point B. That means what am I trying to do is I'm trying to produce more consumer goods and less capital goods. I am looking into the fact that my end customers, my citizens, my people are going to have a luxurious life, comfort of the life are not to be sacrificed at all. So point B, it produces more consumer goods, but only few capital goods. The opportunity cost is XO minus X1, and that is what the capital good would be, YO minus Y1, as the case might be. This is how the figure works around it, and that is what I'm trying to build it for you to go about it. So we have this minus this one, because this is absolutely missing around here. We are producing only this limited of number of people, wherein it comes with the consumer goods. What are we doing around is the XM minus XO. So extra amount that we are going to produce out here, and that is what is required for PPF. And I am trying to give you the production possibility frontiers altogether as for capital goods and things to be considered. Now, invariably, I'll give you a different situation altogether. What if I try to produce something in between B in this particular plot? I am not optimally utilizing anything, and I do not know. I am trying to give you a situation for you to understand altogether. Production is inside the PPF at point B, means the country is not using all its resources. Absolutely not all its resources. In fact, there are spare resources which is left out there. On the other hand, if the country of the anybody who wants to produce it at point number C, probably it cannot produce, because if it finds a way to expanding its resources or improve productivity, these resources already have. This will push PPF further outward as the so point outside PPF it finds is expanding resources. You have to take out help, take out import certain things and start producing it, which is beyond your capacity as the case might be. So how do we access it? Now this is what needs to be done as far point C is concerned, as we have been trying to do about it. Production possibility frontiers is what is the realm of affair. Point number C is where you are importing it. Point number C is where you are incorporating certain technologies. Point number C, you are going beyond yourself to produce production facilities. Again, the same constraint of y1 minus y0 and xo minus x1, wherein you are taking the help of other things that comes around it. Now, this is what was all about the positive and normative economics was all about. Remember, we'll come up with a statement, both positive and economic statement, and come to assert the real business environment, the real economic environment, as the case might be. The positive statement says capable of being verified or refuted by resorting to a facts of further investigation. That is what positive statement is all about. It is being verified and you cannot be vindicated. Absolutely. Why? Because you have certain data points, certain valuable information which will ascertain or give you validity altogether. Normative statement would be containing value judgments which cannot be verified by the result of investigation. As in, why not capital goods and why only consumer goods? Why do I think only on the benefit of the people? And remember, we might be thinking for the benefit of the citizenship, but for how many years? Is it short term or is it sustainable? For being sustainable, what needs to be done? So that is what normative statement would be about it. It cannot be you cannot be verifying it, you cannot be substantiating it, and there is no legality as to this, as in whether this particular method that you adopted is the right thing to do around it. So we'll give you certain examples. Healthcare can be improved with more tax funding, definitely one of those attributes. Or pollution control can be effective through a system of fine if we can. So healthcare can be more funding wherein government spend it out. How do you take that money out from it? Let's say in terms of pollution control, you might be imposing fines altogether, very stringent fine that comes around it. Society ought to provide homes for all and every one of them, as the case might be. Any strategy aimed at reducing factory closures in deprived areas would be helpful. Yes, obviously, yes. And that is what we are looking forward to it. So the environment in an introductory economics, basically there are three global development: the microeconomics in context, the macroeconomics in context, and the principle of economics in the context that comes around it. As the case might be, you need to go about as on when on basis. The microeconomics, the macroeconomics, and the principles of economics. So contextual economics, what do we look into it? Economics takes an activity that takes place within a broader social and environmental context. Usually, I have said economies will akin to a country as per se. So contextual economies is economic activities taking place as a broader sense altogether. The detailed environmental focus, the economics of the environment, the common property, resources, public goods, macroeconomic measurement, social environment, dimensions, everything, whatever you look into it, it is nothing but economics of environment. We are talking about the public property, we are talking about the private property, we are talking about the government intervention, we are talking about the outlook towards how to manage the social and the environmental dimension. The growth and the sustainability is as important as anything. So economic activity in context. Now, in traditionally methods, what do we do around it? In traditional text, it says economic activities are any factors of production, distribution and consumption, anything and everything. In terms of production, distribution, consumption is what we are looking into it. In fact, the primary goal in the traditional methodologies would be all about efficiency. It will be all harped on efficiency. Production possibilities frontiers defines as trade-off. Will you do this or you do that? What was our opportunity cost out here and the opportunity cost out there? What are the marginal resources? Circular flow models with household and businesses as the main economic agents, as the case might be. Now, this is what the traditional text would let you know. But in terms of economics in context, how do you go around it? Uh, Remember, apart from production, distribution, and consumption, which was mentioned in a traditional text, we add another essential material as in sustainability or resource maintenance, as the case might be. As with traditional text about efficiency being one of the most important thing, in economics and content, efficiency is only intermediary goal. Final goal should include happiness, security, a sense of meaning, fairness, and ecological balance, as the case might be. That is what is we are looking forward to. PPF or Production Possibility Frontiers was all about trade-off. Yes, now it is not only sustainability being the critical factor, it is the resource maintenance which balance not only for today's consumption but for generations to come. You should not be putting an imbalance to the ecology thereby. Remember, contextual models embeds economic activity with a broader social and environmental context, as the case might be. Let us talk about the economic activity in context. Now, whatever economic activity is all about it is all about the environmental context and social context. Mind you, the larger thing is in environment, it's the flora and fauna that is in place. The social context is when it is the human being coming into the place. And the economic activity is the term, the job, the philosophy, the profession that one follows, both in terms of business sphere, co-sphere, and the public purpose sphere that goes around it. It is in this business entity whether there is an input and there is an output that goes around it. Remember, inputs are from the environment, from the resources, from the services. Output is all about pollutions and waste that comes around it. And that is what economic activity always occur with a broader social and environmental context, as the case might be. This is what is to be kept in mind when you embark upon a new economic activity. Keep this thing in context everywhere. The economics of environment is a detailed welfare analysis. I would have loved to go around with it. Let's say on an x-axis, if we plot the quantity of t-shirts, and on the y-axis is the price that goes around it, how do we go about it? You see, there is a demand growth. When the price is more, the demand will be lesser side. There are zero demand. But when prices you slowly bring it down, your demand increases. So, but so is your break-even point. At the supply tax, at one point when the price is higher, the number of quantities to required to break even was less. But when you reduce the price further, the number of quantity to come to arrive to a break even is more. So this is what your marginal benefit is all about it. Remember, this all depends on your supply. It depends on your supply at the marginal cost, as the case might be. It is very easy to be understood. Remember, I've just given you an example so that it sticks to your mind. Price on the y-axis, quantities on the x-axis, and what are the further furtherance or the qualities that needs to be looked into it as far as their EOQ is concerned, or a BEP is concerned, economic order quantity or break-even point, depending upon how the economics of the environment works around it. Remember, in social marginal cost, what are we looking? Should we looking at higher prices or lower prices? What is about the supply, the private marginal cost? Should we looking at a higher quantity and lesser prices? How do we go across it? And this is all about demand to induce demand. It is all about your tax that comes around it, the supply which helps you to mitigate the economics of the environment. Remember, valuing the environment is very important. Why? because valuing means to understand the economic value and the intrinsic value. Intrinsic value, the hidden value, the real value that comes around it. Importance of non-use value, if it is related to emotional things like that. Discussions of environmental valuation technique, use and limitations of cost benefit analysis, as the case might be. Discussions of the precautionary principles, environmental policies and practices that is there, which comes into your being every now and then. So discussion for four main environmental policies: standards, technology-based approaches, taxes, tradable permits, summary of major environmental regulation, and does environmental protection reduces economic welfare and lead to the job losses, as the case might be. As on when on basis, how do you go across with it? So this is what has been to be done for. Now, common property and resources. Now, why do we go about it? Now, we need to understand in terms of dollar spending that we spend on a y-axis, and in terms of the fishing trips and how many fish that we go around it. So, detailed analysis of common properties, resources, public goods include discussion of tragedy of commons. How do you work around it? So if you have more number of trips, probably yes. So number of cost of the dollars also increases or reduces. How do you go across it? What this needs to be understood very minutely for all of us to understand what are the common property resources and how do you go by it. Right. So this is, we will like to clear it off before we wind up this particular discussion altogether. You need to understand the number of fishing trips. If you increase it out after a point, it doesn't make sense because it is going below beyond your fixed cost. You have to be making a lesser number of trips, and only then you can make a wonderful profitability. Beyond trips, beyond the fishing trips, there are no fish in the lake or on the sea or on the river, as the case might be. So you cannot go beyond certain things. So it is always there. You should be having an optimal resources. You cannot make a number of trips and probably exploit all the fish altogether. And that is what the common property resources is all about it. You should make trips which is sustainable. The population of fish should be there, and for the further generation next season, and so on and so forth. That needs to be understood as for the economic environment goes around it. With these words, I would love to wind this particular presentation. Thank you for watching this video.